there.
Yeah, Devito's not just going to get the job. Obviously, Arts and Kelsey got some starts last year. He's banged up for tonight's scrimmage, but he'll be good for the fall. Wide receivers who they're throwing the football to, Isaiah Williams, really the only bona fide weapon they have. A little bit with Casey Washington. Offensive line, they lost a lot last year. Doug Kramer of the Darien Low gone. They've got some JUCO transfers, and they're battling for positions. Of course, that outside backer. Defense was stout last year, but Owen Carney, Isaiah Gay, the two outside backers that led this team in sacks are gone. They got to replace that pressure because there's nothing that creates turnovers more than pressure on the quarterback.
Yep, as Jay mentioned there, Sitkowski, 6'5" QB out. He's got a strong arm, and as Jay noted there, the position battle at QB is nothing but wrapped up right now. It could certainly be something to look at when the fall training camp does roll around. A couple of wideouts who will be notable to keep an eye on when the fall rolls around. Casey Washington, Sean Miller, those guys will be big in the passing game, but it's a receiver court that we're excited to watch. A bit depleted today when it comes to the names actually on the field.
Sure.
But yeah, those are a few notable players to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Washington obviously made the big catch in overtime to seal it against Penn State. Sean Miller got it really flashed, according to Brett Bielema, during the spring practice. Not going to play tonight. Of course, Keith Randolph, probably the best overall defensive tackle that Illinois has. Maybe the best defensive player they have on their team out tonight.
Again, it's the blue and orange, but we got blue and white. The ones are in the white uniforms, your first-string players, and the second, third string, fourth string players who could be competing potentially for starting spots as well in the blue uniforms.
So we're seeing more tempo from the jump. No huddle immediately. Emily mentioned tempo with a pro style, and we're seeing it early on.
Ryan Johnson is the QB for the blue team. We're in the orange jersey. Yeah, that's interesting. Bielema mentioned that it's more up-tempo, but they feel they've got the variation in there as well. Can make checks to the line of scrimmages, can slow it down when you need to, and it's more of a tempo, but you got the balance in the mix as well.
Obviously, I could definitely be wrong.
Johnson will hand it off this time. Peyton Vining at back. Beg your pardon, Chase Hayden.
A good read there by Seth Coleman, Tariq Barnes. Those are some guys. You can see big Johnny Newton as well getting in the middle of. That's really the center of the teeth of this defense. We said Keith Randolph's out for today. Johnny Newton, another guy they're extremely high on, just a sophomore. They think this guy can be an all Big Ten defensive lineman. They will. Lovie Smith recruited him, won some battles as far as who they're recruiting in, so get Johnny Newton here. They're excited about his future as we look on at Isaiah Williams.
One of their top wideout. Also returns punts in the special teams game, very effective. And he's a guy who they're hoping to get some support around when he does come to the offensive side of things. Led the team in receptions and receiving yards by far last season as a freshman. His eligibility still just a sophomore. It's a relatively young wideout core, so now we'll see him in this ones group led by Tommy Devito. Like his personality, it's very vibrant, isn't it, Jay? I mean, he isn't afraid to step up and have his voice heard and practice his magnetic personality, as the coaching staff describes it. Look at his numbers from Syracuse.
Yeah, and 18 starts under Dino Babers in Syracuse. Threw for $143, 28 tutties, 12 interceptions. Not a horrible touchdown to interception ratio. This is a guy that played at one of the best high schools in the country, Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey. Lots of talent comes out. A lot of Big Ten players come out of that school. This guy's been accustomed to good football for a long time.
Handed off here to their leading running back from a season ago, Chase Brown, who ran for a shade over 1,000 yards last season.
Just that style of play is this is called a gap scheme right here. Watch the guard and tackle pull right over there, right? You got Chase Brown follow around. You see Chase cuts it up in. He probably could have bounced it up. That's a little bit different than the zone look they had last year.
Beatty looking over the middle this time. It has Isaiah Williams on the crossing route.
I mean, that's got to be bread and butter all day, right? Because this is in the slot. Isaiah Williams sometimes had to play the wide receiver, or the X position, where he wasn't in the slot last year because they didn't have any other receivers. But in the slot, he is so dangerous on those quick crossing routes.
Back to Brown, little burst up sticks just about to the yard to gain, and the chains here.
Here's what makes Chase Brown different, right? There, he puts his foot in the ground, and the acceleration's there, and a little bit of juice to him right here. Puts that left foot in the ground, he's up. Great vision there, good patience. At first, Chase didn't have much patience last year. He's really got more patient, waiting for stuff to develop.
Devito was looking for Isaiah Williams streaking down the seam that time. See a bit more of the tempo, quick throws, and we're seeing that early on with a good blend of the running game.
Well, that's uncharacteristic drop there by Isaiah Williams, wide open. This is what you call an MA, missed assignment. Just simply took the ball, eyes off the ball. Ball was a little bit behind him. Not a great throw by Devito.
You're going to say that's a drop? Absolutely true.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot out of Isaiah Williams. You can expect that to be grabbed 9 times out of 10, usually 10 times out of 10 with him. As Brown showcasing his elusiveness there. Slipping through a couple of tackles. Brown became the 12th back in program history to run for 1,000 yards last season. Maybe wasn't talked about quite as much as some of the other backs around the Big Ten because there was so much talent at that position, but he is one of the emerging players in the backfield around this conference.
We've seen the quarterback in shotgun almost every play. We haven't seen anything under center. You got to be aware of quarterback run when they're in the shotgun.
Finds the late man crossing, and this time able to hook up with Pat Bryant, and one of the players they're hoping can maybe emerge around Isaiah Williams.
Well, watch him just size up. He feels the pressure, slides a little bit to the left, gets it out. That's an experienced quarterback. A young quarterback probably throws that at the feet, throws away. Devito's able to use his mobility, keep his eyes downfield, make a completion on 3rd and 5 to pick up the first down. Wouldn't be surprised to see a shot soon here. I mean, they're in what they call the alumni zone, in between the 40s.
Yeah, Williams motioning out. They go to him. He's met promptly. Then lost the football. And was able to pounce back on it just inside of the 50.
Tyler Strain. Watch Tyler Strain get off the block by Pat Bryant. This is how you use your hands, right? Use your hands to get off the block. Just beats it. Clean hit. Doesn't hit him in the face at all. And pops it out. I'm not sure Isaiah Williams ever had control of that, although it looks like he does. And as he's straining, the ball comes out. He did recover. So they didn't rule it a fumble.
So we read into it, Illinois basketball. Huh?
It was a nice play from Strain, defensive back. This time Brown brought down.
That big Calvin Avery, he's a guy, a 4-star recruit out of Texas. They've wanted him to be better than he has been. Has had some conditioning issues, but if he can stay on the field, man, he has the ability to get the push. And a 3-4 defense, you want your nose to get a tremendous push on that center. It helps the whole defense out when you get pressure and you get penetration.
Avery, a player who returns a couple of starts from last season. Should be in the mix once again for a starting job. Devito flushed, goes to the sideline. And Brown over there.
Good protection. He actually has time here. Good protection on the outside from the outside linebackers. But I tell you what, he had a couple guys open. Just decided not to throw it. Barry Lundy's kind of talking with him, saying, hey, he had a curl route right there. Kendall Smith looked like he was open. Or, excuse me, rather it was Brian Hightower was open.
Why?
He'll learn. That's what spring ball's all about.
Green jerseys and the colors.
Back in your day on the I-line, I feel Jay, what was your favorite part about spring practice culminating with the spring game itself?
First of all, spring ball's a grind, okay? So it's all about getting better. By the time you get to the spring game, it's the one time you just get to let loose and hit people. So as a linebacker, that's what I like.
I feel like you're amped up today, like your playing days, as you usually are.
You got to be, right?
Yeah, you got me amped up prior to this one.
Season yet. That's right. Celebrating. What are you on the field?
Now down in the field, the Tim Mccarthy Scholarship being awarded.
Catholic High School in 1967, and after earning playing time in 1968, was awarded a football scholarship and lettered as a safety in 1969 and 1970. After graduation, Tim went on to a career with the Secret Service, eventually earning a spot on the team that protected the President of the United States. On March 30th, 1981, while protecting President Ronald Reagan, Tim jumped in front of a bullet intended for Reagan, quite possibly saving the president's life. Over the years, Tim has been recognized many times for his heroic act. But starting in 2022, a scholarship given to a walk-on Illini football player will be named the Timothy Mccarthy Scholarship. Tim is joined on field with Director of Athletics Josh Whitman and this year's scholarship recipient, senior tight end, number 42, Michael Marquez. Thank you, Tim McCarthy, for your heroic service to our nation.
That's a great award right there. And Tim McCarthy, a guy that, as you heard, took a bullet for President Ronald Reagan in 1981 when he was in the Secret Service, and now they've got an award, a scholarship. It's going to go to Michael Marquez right here. He's got the scholarship as a former walk-on, now on scholarship, got the Timothy McCarthy scholarship. He's talking to AD Josh Whitman, but certainly one of the more celebrated alumni here for his off-the-field accolades.
That is so cool to see. There's Michael Marquez. Now let's go down to Emily, who's with Tim.
Mr. McCarthy, almost 55 years ago, you signed up as a walk-on in the Illinois football team. After your sophomore season, you earned a starting spot and a scholarship. What's your number one trait that got you to that point?
I think it was just hanging in there. This is not an easy sport, whether it's practice or otherwise, and it was just more determination. I had great teammates that encouraged me to continue on. We had great coaches back in the day, like now, Jim Valek and others, and it was just determination to do it. And it's tough. It was tough, but it was worth every minute of it, and there's a lot of it that, in the weight rooms and things like that, no one ever sees where all the work and practice gets done. It was great.
Well, this Tim McCarthy scholarship is going to an Illinois walk-on in your name. What importance did that scholarship have for you?
Well, it's going to be on a walk-on. As we know, Coach Bielema was a walk-on, so I think he had a little bit to do with it. But the recognition for young men to come out to play the sport with no incentive in the sense that they don't have a scholarship and to stick with it like Michael Marquez did, it just shows determination. It shows grit. It shows all sorts of things. But I'm just honored and humbled, quite frankly. I said, well, maybe it wasn't for academics. Was it for academics or was it for football? But either way, I'm honored, humbled. Illinois forever for me. Always has been and always will be.
Well, it's been an honor for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Tim. You can really feel his passion for the...
I got a chance to meet Tim McCarthy at an alumni event probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I really had no idea about his story, about what he did as a Secret Service agent for President Ronald Reagan. Got to hear that story, how down to earth he was, and he's had a distinguished career. And so it's just been really cool to see him. And that's what you get at a Big Ten university with so many alumni. You just don't know what kind of resource that is when you sign up for a scholarship, right? When you say, hey, I'm going to go there, you get tap into all that. You see Tim McCarthy way back in the day, late 60s, early 70s. Doug Deacon looked like they're in the middle. Great Browns player. The guy on the left, 86, is Tim McCarthy. Doug Deacon, I think, is 82. Great tight end room right there, and McCarthy and Deacon for the Illini. And as McCarthy said, played for Jim Valek.
Tight end spot you bring up is an interesting one for this Illinois offense. They lose Daniel Barker to Michigan State, tipped into the transfer portal. Luke Ford is in that spot, likely to take over the amount of reps he was getting offensively. Saw Ford creeping in the picture there. Tip Raymond as well.
Ford, Tip Raymond, those guys are solid dudes. We see another big body, Josh Mcrae. You can see him moving piles. He's the guy that really popped onto the scene last year in the Purdue game, which was not the Big Ten opener because they opened up against Nebraska, but early in the Big Ten season. And he's a guy that is an absolute load in a great, different style back compared to Chase Brown.
You see Mcrae is more the physical, kind of bowling ball build type of style. You see him this time cut it back a bit, gets a block, maneuvers for a first down inside of the 20.
I mean, so much of it is patience, right? I mean, the way that he's patient, he can set up. Well, watch him set up the block here. There are two guys pulling around. Watch the crackback by Pat Bryant right there. Good block, seals the edge. And then out in front, you see Isaiah Adams, 78, able to pull around and able to get out in space on the defensive back and make a play.
Took that one for 18 yards. This time bounces off a tackler and gets back to the line of scrimmage. Mcrae averages shade under 5 yards per carry last season. As Jay mentioned, good tandem at back between Brown and Mcrae.
Let me know who's winning.
Currently, no one.
So 0-0? Yep.
That's one of the stronger spots of this offense when it comes to returning players.
Yeah, and then like the young guys they got too. We'll see Jordan Anderson out of Joliet Catholic in Chicago, obviously a powerhouse at 240, just as big as Mcrae, they say. You got Aiden Lawfery, guy out of Gibson City, about 40 minutes away from here in Champaign, is a track guy, got a lot of reps in spring, he's banged up today. They just got deeper at that back spot.
This time DeVito has Isaiah Williams. He's down inside the 10-yard line.
So what I like is the ability just to say, I'm going to throw it on a rope, and I'm going to put it on the numbers, right? So watch him just throw it on a rope, numbers, bam, get a solid gain of 6-7 yards. Too many times between Sikowski and Brandon Peters last year, they missed easy throws. Listen, this is college football. You've got to be able to pitch and catch, Jason. They weren't able to pitch and catch at all last year, and that's why everybody started stacking the D, 10 guys in the box to stop Mcrae and Brown.
Passing offense ranked last in the conference. Made strides defensively, but now trying to get back to it in the passing game. Isaiah Williams takes this inside of the 5, using him in multiple ways early on, showcasing his versatility.
And they want to touch the ball. They want to get him all kinds of ways, right? Now, that's one way to pad your passing stats, right? Just throw the ball, a foot forward, right? That actually counts as a pass. And so that pads your stats a bit. But what I would say is this, is Isaiah Williams, one of the few guys that has the ability to get yards after catch. The Illini need chunk plays. We haven't seen chunk plays yet. We saw Williams drop one that could have been a chunk play, but they can't. It's so hard to sustain drives for 10, 15 plays without making a big mistake like a turnover or penalty.
It's time to go back to the ground. Mcrae up the gut, right down to the goal line. Steps prior to getting into the end zone. You asked Barry Lunny about how to get those chunk plays as we see more of a goal line package here.
Sure. I mean, first it starts with run the football, right? And they're going to run the football effectively. It's, can you play action off of that? Can you get one-on-ones? I like what Barry Lundy said. He said, we got to first win one on none, like on air. We're not even playing defense. We haven't played pitching against. Then we got to win one-on-one. Then we got to be able to beat zone or the pass rush. So you see Mcrae tumble in for the first score of the night.
Josh Mcrae took the majority of the snaps at running back on that drive that results in, as Jay mentioned, the first score of this blue and orange game here in Champaign.
I mean, this is just old school Big Ten football. Great push right there. We see Kalcheski, 63, really get a great push at the right tackle position. He's a guy that's been around a long time, awarded another year. Also see Adams in there getting a push, Chrysler getting a push. Those are 2 JUCO transfers. Caleb Griffin with the extra point. I was sat behind for a long, long time, the starting kicker, James McCourt, and Caleb Griffin, a guy out of Danville, Illinois, 40 minutes east of Champaign, finally getting his chance home with the Vikings.
Let's look at Brett Bielema, and as we see our first score of the game, good point to mention that the white team, the ones, will have normal scoring when the blue team scores will be double your normal amount. So a 7-0 start for the ones.
Yeah, Brett talked about that. He said, I want my ones to play together. I want them to learn how to play off of each other, so he likes the starters to play together.
So don't forget, every Big Ten team, every Big Ten sport customized your way on the Big Ten Plus app. Jay, one of my favorite apps, powered by Big Ten Network. Stream hundreds of live, non-televised events, plus next-day re-airs. It all adds up to a bigger Big Ten. Download and subscribe today.
See Samari Collier right there at the quarterback position, getting some reps for the blue team. This is a guy that they are high on as he throws to Edwards for a quick pitch and catch. Big body guy. Really, really big. A 6'2", 230 out of DeSoto, Texas.
Redshirted last season. Hasn't taken a college snap yet. See him working on the shotgun as well. Jay, what does that tell you, this consistent theme of we're seeing the QBs on both sides continually working out of his gun?
Well, we're seeing the shotgun, and this is the spring ball, right? We're on Big Ten Network, so everybody's going to see this film. So don't want to show too much because nobody knows what this offense is going to look like under Barry Lunny with these guys. They know what Barry Lunny did at UTSA last year, but we haven't seen any quarterback run yet. I thought we'd see that. Maybe they're saving that for week 1 against Wyoming in the fall, but it shows me that we're not going to see a ton of under center, which is different for a Brett Bielema team. Very different, but they're running the same concepts.
This time you see the legs of Cooper on display. They blow it dead.
So this is always a point of contention in spring football. Would he have gone down or would not? So they say Sidney Brown's going to tackle him here. Would Sidney get that tackle? I don't know, Sidney. Sidney's a good player, but I'm not sure. It just drives the defensive guy nuts that you can't hit the quarterback. That just it really slows down your aggression a little bit too, especially if you're a D lineman. You got to feel bad for those guys.
I feel like you want to make the tackle for Sidney up
yes.
from all the way up here in the booth. Well, Sidney Brown led the Illini in tackles last season, so I'm sure he thinks he could have made it there.
Yeah, no, Sidney's a guy that probably one of their best guys.
Speaking of guys who have made some tackles, Emily is down on the field with Jake Hansen.
Jake, you played for Illinois for 6 years. When you look back on your career, what memory sticks out to you most?
I gotta say that our Wisconsin upset on this field. That was probably one of my favorites, and good buddy James McCourt knocking down the game-winning kick for us to knock them off. So I would say that.
Well, it hasn't always been an easy ride for you. After your sophomore year, you hurt your knee. Last season, you hurt your other knee, season-ending injury. As you have these NFL aspirations, what keeps you going?
It's always been a dream of mine as a young kid, so just continue pushing and aiming for those goals is something that I'm not going to quit on. So,
growing up as a kid, you mentioned it. When was the first time you realized, man, I'm pretty good at this?
Probably around high school, honestly. You never really know in youth. You can't really tell in youth. But I'd probably say around high school I started to earn a little college interest, and that was kind of what, made me really love football a lot. So, yeah.
Jake, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Jake.
Great questions from Emily. I love Jake. Jake's a guy who, honestly, one of the great careers in college football as far as Illinois linebackers goes. You look at what his stats, he didn't play on great teams, but how he forced fumbles, he made some big plays. He had six tackles for loss in one game. He was close to setting the all-time record for Illinois as far as forced fumbles, breaking Whitney Merciless's record. Maybe it was Simeon Rice's record. He got banged up late in his career with some concussions, with some knee injuries. I'm telling you what, this guy was one of the best to ever play at linebacker for the Illini.
See, that's another spot to examine today, the outside linebacker spot in particular when it comes to this 2022 Illinois football team.
Yeah, speaking of a guy who's going to be here maybe through 2026 is Malachi Hood. Malachi Hood is a guy they are really, really high on as a backer. You see him making a big-time tackle against Chase Brown in space. Chase Brown trying to get the edge. Malachi Hood says, he's another guy out of Joliet Catholic, played with Jordan Anderson as well. You can see the outside linebackers that are battling here, right? You got Jared Beatty, Alec Bryant, the transfer from Vatech, Shaman Cooper, highly recruited. Zeke Holmes and Seth Coleman, probably the leaders in that.
Devito goes over the middle this time. Able to find his target.
Miles Scott is a guy that has really popped. Was a walk-on, is a walk-on, but has really been solid. Brett Bielema has been really high on this guy in spring. Building run routes, catch the football, just sits right down. They call that sitting down in the hook curl zone and just sat for the ball, wait for it. And that's what Chase Brown can do, make people miss.
Brown hitting the second level after a beautiful spin move. Slipped a couple of limpy tacklers there. Got out near midfield.
We didn't know how much of Chase Brown we would see. We're seeing enough, though, here in the first quarter. That might be the last run of the day, but watch this move right here. It's the X button when you're playing on PlayStation. Or is that the triangle? Oh, no, what is it? He spun twice. Little juke left and right. Good hustle by the D to finally get him down, but so explosive, so slippery, and an extra gear to get upfield to get more yards.
So now a little fun down in the field. They're going to have a kicking competition before a little breather here. So it'll be normal scoring, 3 points each. It'll be interesting to see who they get involved in this. So officially a field goal shootout.
Griffin, who really bided his time behind James McCourt. James McCourt, who was mentioned there by Jake Hansen, who won the game winner famously against Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a top 5 team. Illinois was 28-point underdog. Illinois upset him.
It's a 33-yarder. Each of the kickers will attempt.
And in the shootout, the field goals count as normal points. Okay, so it's you don't get double for field goals if you're the blue team.
Fabrizio Pinton, Houston, Texas native. Back to Caleb Griffin.
3 to 10. Blue 3, gray 10. Or white. Sorry.
Making it look easy.
Colorblind.
A lot of people ask, why don't they go live during special teams? And it's very, very, first of all, it's very hard to mimic live special teams. Because punt, kickoff. In this case, field goal protection, field goal block. And it's also very dangerous. But it's a very high-speed play. And when you are below numbers in spring football, you just don't want to get guys hurt. And so a lot of times you won't go live on these special team things, but you work all your techniques, operation, snap, hold, kick, make sure it gets off in time.
Would you say, however, you can work on different situations in spring practice, spring game in particular is probably the most important part of what you're doing today?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to spring football, it's all about, am I lined up? Do I know my assignment? Am I doing the proper technique? Am I running the football? That's going to give me the best chance to win a spot on this football team so I can contribute in the fall when it really counts. Of course, the coaches are looking at, when it comes to special teams, hey, are our operations in sync? Are we snapping? Are we stepping with the right foot, protecting? Are we punching with the right arm, the left arm? What are we doing? They're going to watch all this stuff. You'd be surprised how much they can watch a film over and over again. We finally got a miss over there, I can see.
We'll step aside after the kicking shootout there. More to come from Champaign. An awesome day for a little spring ball at Memorial Stadium.
Just 3 words tell you everything you need to know. They
tell you why we employ more than 2,000 workers at our factory in Virginia Beach, and why over 10,000 local steel dealers are putting battery power in the hands of Americans. Not everyone can say that, but we can. Made in America. Real steel. Find yours.
Here we go, Billy. Swing hard, buddy.
At Auto Owners Insurance, we know you. We know every Saturday your son Billy plays Little League. We sponsor his team. And we know you love parking way too close to the field. That's why we tailor a unique policy for you and your car. Because sometimes something from out of left field can literally come from out of left field. That's simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you. Hey, Billy.
Teamwork, it inspires us on and off the field. And here in Big Ten country, where we battle for titles and trophies, when it comes to fighting cancer, we're on the same team. Our playbook, uncover new ideas and discoveries to enable new cancer treatments. Our Big Ten rivals are teaming up to fight cancer together. The Big Ten Cancer Research Consortium, providing more wins, more memories, more hope.
The Big Ten Network.
Welcome back to Memorial Stadium. A look at Ben Miller, who, Jay, has been through a lot over the past year or so, and it's good to see him on the sidelines today.
Yeah, the special teams and tight ends coach diagnosed with colon cancer this year, and surgery in February, is undergoing chemotherapy right now, but out here to support the team today. Prayers and support, good thoughts to him as he battles. This is actually his second stint here at Illinois. He was actually a graduate assistant in 2006 when I played here. Spent a long time at Air Force coaching football, and then came back here under Brett Bielema. It's so good to see him back on the sideline. An integral part of Illinois is they use the tight ends a lot, and special teams were a strong point with Blake Hayes, the punter, and James McCourt at field goals last year.
Prior to break, we just saw the kicking shootout to work on some special team snares. Now the ones are back out on the field. And again, Tommy Devito at QB, the transfer from Syracuse. If you're just tuning in, we'll likely have a battle with Art Satowski, who isn't on the field today. Might give the edge to Devito, given he's playing in spring ball, but Satowski did get reps last season, although dealt with injuries. Devito has dealt with injuries throughout his career at Syracuse. Didn't quite work out with the Orange, but he's excited for some new scenery in Champaign this season. Drops back here, looking to the end zone, and has his wide out. It's Isaiah Williams. Illini fans would love for that connection to become normal when the 2022 season does roll around.
Yeah, decent by Devito. It looked like he threw it behind him. Really was a back shoulder to keep it away from the safety. Good protection there by the offensive line, and throws it kind of back shoulder. You can see he's working on the defensive back. Drops it right in the bucket. Good hands by Isaiah Williams. Peyton Vining unable to cover the fleet-footed Williams, a guy who, as you mentioned, just a sophomore. He seems like he's been here forever with the COVID year and the red shirt, everything else. He's just a sophomore.
He's worn that number one ever since he first started playing football as a youngster. Has always loved being number one. Led the team in touchdown receptions a season ago. There's a look at some of the early work that we've seen from Tommy Devito.
Well, they wanted a Power 5 quarterback, and here's what you get with the Power 5 quarterback. Ability to feel pressure, side shuffle, hit Pat Bryant for the first down. Scans the field, didn't make a great decision here, decides, you know what, I'm just going to try to throw the ball away or get a 1-yard gain. Here we see him just throw a bullet pass to Isaiah Williams in the flat, and then we finally see him connect on a chunk play, an explosive play, back shoulder fade to the inside slot receiver Isaiah Williams, and this time Williams hangs on for Pater.
We'll send it down to the sidelines, or Emily has more on Devito.
One of the main reasons head coach Brett Bielema was interested in grad transfer quarterback Tommy Devito was how vocal he is. For a head coach that preaches the importance of communication, Bielema told me his first impression of Devito was that he was very warm and has a very magnetic personality. He said Tommy's not afraid of much and is a true Jersey guy through and through. Offensive coordinator Barry Lenny said he can tell Devito's played a lot of football. He has great arm talent, he's quick, and he's a great decision maker.
Emily, great stuff. North Jersey native, as he'll tell you.
I guess there's a difference to the Jersey guys, right? We're talking about a guy that I think can be the difference between 5 wins and 8 wins. It's the quarterback, right? I mean, this is the guy, if he can get a couple more first downs than they had last year. I mean, they were close in 2 or 3 games. They weren't that far from really competing with that top spot in the Big Ten West. They could finish some games, but it came down to the inability to throw the football. And when they stacked the box on Illinois, very difficult for them to run the football.
Illinois got off to a 1-4 start last season, but 3 of those 4 losses were one-possession games. You saw that sprinkled throughout a lot of the games last season. Here's a look at the 2022 schedule.
Yeah, obviously you got that Week 0 game. Brett Bielema loves the Week 0. Played Nebraska last year in their Big Ten opener in Week 0. Wyoming, Indiana. They actually swapped Indiana and Penn State because of some scheduling different things. They had Penn State, now it's Indiana. Virginia beat them down last year out in Charlottesville. Obviously, Tony Elliott, the coach there. That's your first 3 games. And then after that, they have that bye. And then they hit the meat of their Big Ten season, where you got Iowa, you've got Wisconsin, you've got those guys that you have to play every year. As we watched the last player, Ryan Johnson's the receiver, not really ready for it. I think this is the running back, Jordan Anderson. Yep, the young player out of Joliet Catholic, who's every bit of 240, they say, and they're excited about him. And Barry Lenny Jr. saying, "Hey, this is a good time to coach him up a bit." Really like talking to Barry Lenny Jr. Doesn't take himself too seriously, you know? Love to see that in a head football coach. How about Josh Mcrae? You don't usually see a 240-pound running back returning punts. Yeah, at 6'4", too.
I mentioned Anderson, some of the early enrollees here. See a few of the key ones out. Mentioned the receiver position. Sean Miller really stands out there.
Sure. Yeah, well, Jordan Anderson, we just saw. Malachi Hood, we started making player chase. But Ian Lafrey's got some serious jets. He's got elite speed, great change of pace back. Jared Beatty got hurt the first day of spring ball. He's gained 15 to 20 pounds of muscle since he got here. Was a Covenant recruit at that outside linebacker position. And Sean Miller, guy out of IMG. Listen, they need help. They need help ASAP at receiver. Sean Miller can be that guy. It can't just be Isaiah Williams. It can't just be Luke Ford. They've got to have Casey Washington step up. He's not healthy. Sean Miller. Let's also not forget about Miles Scott, who they think has been very good in the spring, who we saw make a catch earlier.
Sean Miller chose Illinois over other Big Ten schools that offers from Michigan State, Indiana, a 3-star recruit. Really love his work ethic. Casey Washington, another returning experience, not on the field today, though.
Yeah, and the big question is Brian Hightower. Transferred here last year, didn't do much at all. Kamari Thompson didn't do much last year, but has some real speed. Sean Miller, Ian Pugh, a guy that they actually got away from Cincinnati. Cincinnati committed to Cincinnati. Obviously, Cincinnati, a playoff team last year. Got Ian Pugh to come and flip it. He's out of Naperville, but went to Fenwick High School in Oak Park. And so they're recruiting the state of Illinois hard, and you can see that by what they've been able to do. I think Casey Washington and Isaiah Williams will be their top 2 starting when it comes to the fall, but I think these other guys are going to play a key part. We saw Pat Bryant really make some plays in that Iowa game. When everybody was down, he was the go-to guy. So there's been some reps there, and if they can put it all together, I think they'll be okay.
Hoping now Brett Bielema in year 2 can continue to impact the recruiting for Illinois football in the state of Illinois and around the country.
And this is the basic man beater route, right? Just a drive route across the field. Devito to Bryant. And the thing about a drive route is it's what they call a man beater. You run all the way across the field. That corner has to run all the way with you. So they do it to beat man coverage.
Second catch we've seen today from Bryant, who's in the mix for maybe a more elevated role at that receiver position. It was a gain of 12. Now they go back to Chase Brown, who will likely be the starting running back once again this season. Good chunk there on the ground. Averaged about 6 yards per carry a season ago. Here he is again.
Watch 72 here. Zy Chrysler, 6'6", 360. Out of Mississippi Community College. See him pull around right there? Gives Deion Payne a full face at 360 miles. He's down to 360. Right? At one time he was 420. That is a load and some serious beef in the interior line, and he pulled around with some good feet right there.
He's another one of the early enrollees. A catch on the sideline made there by Pat Bryant.
Now that's a throw they want to see, right? He's from 72. He's going to pull around and watch Malachi Hood, who's an early enrollee. He's going to prom next week, and he says, "Oh, man, maybe I should have stayed at prom."
So the last one just got
Onside
copyrighted.
Chrysler.
It said be back.
Get your foot down, son. Get your inside foot down before you hit Zy Chrysler. If not, it's going to be IHOP all day. Pancake City. Get your syrup ready.
They put Tip Raymond in motion, then threw it to him.
Yes,
and he launches out to find the end zone.
And Illinois just scored. Yes, sir! Illinois scored.
We almost missed Tip.
Oh my God, no, I'm not.
Tip actually
This is called
got married this past year. Let's watch Big Zy on the power pass.
Not everybody knows me.
Just hanging out. Wait, nobody wants to mess with Zy after that. He gets a little hit in there. But after what he did to Malachi Hood, he's the protection. See Devito throw a strike to Ryman. And, actually good form on the tackle, but that's just like you don't have enough strength to finish the job, right? I mean, Ryman just collapsed.
So I will let you guys know on Snapchat if we won. Well,
he's got the tight end size, 6'5", 250.
Which team wins? Obviously, it's laggy, but Orange plays
the lights and BTN Big 10K returns home to Soldier Field in Chicago. Runners can choose between a 10K or 5K option, followed by an